Thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. So we'll get started. So thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. And thank you also to Saul for partnering with the Black Mountain Institute. Welcome to Dave Ortega's workshop on expressing the self in comics. My name is Charlie Joy. I am a fiction writer and illustrator in UNLV's MFA program. On behalf of the Black Mountain Institute, thank you to the Rogers Foundation and the College of Liberal Arts. After a few reminders from me, Dave will begin the workshop. You can learn more about his work and the sequential art workshop at their websites, which we'll post in the chat. Also, please use the chat for questions until Dave invites participants to share towards the end of the workshop. And if you enjoy the workshop today, please consider joining us for free upcoming virtual events with the Black Mountain Institute. The next comics event is on Saturday, April 8th at 3 p.m. with Tom Hart, which is all about narrative voice in comics. And if you're interested, our next virtual event is about getting an agent. And this will be on March 31st at 12 noon. And for those of you who are local to the Las Vegas area, please join us for our next in-person event on campus on Thursday, March 30th, when we'll have alumni Marianne Chan and Clancy McGilligan read their work. And more information about all of those events can be found on the BMI website at blackmountaininstitute.org. So with you, we would first like to acknowledge that UNLV operates from the city of Las Vegas, traditional homeland and unceded territory of the Nuwubi or the Mawapa Band of Paiute people. We encourage everyone in this space to engage in shared stewardship of the land, in active learning about historical realities of colonialism, and the indigenous peoples who continue to work and live on this land since time immemorial. Now, Dave Ortega tells stories through the power of words and images. He is a cartoonist and educator living near Boston and teaches at Lesley University. His graphic novel, Días de Consuelo, about the early life of his grandmother, who was born during the Mexican Revolution, was selected by Society of Illustrators for their Illustration 65 Annual. He is a 2021 grantee of the Collective Futures Fund, a program of the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, and a recipient of multiple artist grants from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. His comics have been featured in Tales from La Vida, a Latinx Comics Anthology, New Frontiers, The Many Worlds of George Takei, Irene Book 5, and Beautiful and Decay. Now, please, everyone, help me welcome Dave.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me. Thanks to the Black Mountain Institute. Thanks to just everybody that helped organize this and bring this together. And I want to also acknowledge Tom Hart and the Sequential Art Workshop, who also extended the invitation and threw my name out for running this workshop after a pretty successful similar workshop last year. So yeah, our time is short, so why don't we just jump right in? I have some slides that we can follow. Oh, somebody acknowledging that the SAW workshop was great. Awesome, thank you. Glad that you can be here as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start off with some some slides here. Can everybody see this? I think I see some nods, so I'm gonna go with that. My name is Dave Ortega, and I'm a cartoonist, the kind of cartoonist that makes comic books, not animation, and a freelance illustrator. Besides teaching at Lesley Art and Design, I also teach workshops in the greater Boston area. I used to work producing videos at a nonprofit community center where I also programmed the local cable access channel, which was amazing. Before that, I worked at a film archive. I grew up in El Paso and now live in Somerville, Mass. I love comics, jogging, animals, and other things. You can call me Dave. Please call me Dave. You could tell this was written for like a classroom setting. So yeah, I actually had to cover up some other stuff like my email. All right, so yeah, so in terms of this being a workshop about writing about your families, there is a lot of talk about writing what you know, and rightfully so, because you kind of want to be writing and making stories from an honest place. And so, if that's the case for all of us, writing what we know, then a good place to do so is often with our families. Family memories can be the fuel for your writing as you develop characters and place your characters in various situations. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the work of Lynda Barry. We're going to be doing a Lynda Barry-esque kind of writing exercise. And Lynda is great. She's just developed this whole body of work around the writing of stories, the telling of stories through words and images. And for Lynda Barry, like, it's really rooted in a sense of play in childhood. And, as adults, we often lose that sense of play with storytelling. And so, getting us to mine our memories for stories can often be really rewarding and lead to some interesting places that we didn't even know we were going to end up in. So that's very exciting. For today's workshop, we'll do that. We'll mine our memories and create an 8-panel comic to create a story. That's a little redundant. I could have reworded that. Again, to people that were early, use what you, I told you this at the beginning, use what you have: pencil, paper, marker, use Bristol board. For those of you not familiar with what Bristol board is, it's like professional comic grade material, such as this. Is actually not board-like at all. It's actually a little flimsy. You don't necessarily need that. I'm going to be using some Bristol board, but use what you have. And then we're gonna spend the next 60 or so minutes writing a story about a family trip. I've done this workshop a few different ways. One workshop, I think the SAW workshop, what we did was memories with family and TV. And that was really great. The thing about living in a family situation is, that you do get into these routines, and some of the routines are even ritualized. And so things like a family trip, there's a lot of anticipation in the planning and the buildup. And then, if it's someplace new, that's exciting. And then just navigating all the different personalities within your family, and experiencing an adventure with them. So there's a lot of really interesting story potential, I think, when it comes to writing about a family trip. So we can start off again, like I said, we'll do like a Lynda Barry inspired writing exercise before we take off with the drawing. So what I'd like you to do over the next 90 seconds or so is to write up a list of 10 trips or vacations that you've taken with your family. They can be modest, like a bike ride along a local trail, or elaborate, like a trip to Australia. So, just the first kind of 10 ideas that, are sitting on the top of your brain, and, try to get them down in the next 90 seconds or so. I can time this for us. And yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do this with you. Let's see. Let's see. So Ray. All right, we're at about 40 seconds. 90 seconds just flies by. God, where else did we go? Let me think. All right, so maybe another 10 seconds. I came up with 8. I'll stand up and hold my list. And your list might look a little similar to mine. So wrap up, get your last items on your list. And so I have like a trip to the City of Rocks, which is a real place. A trip to grandma's, a pilgrimage, and I know I misspelled that, to Mount Cristo Rey. Disneyland, I didn't go, but I heard about it. A fishing trip, a drive to New Mexico, Juarez, Mexico, and Peter Piper Pizza. Moving on in the slides here. Let's see. All right, now circle the more, that should be most, but you could also circle the most vivid one or the more vivid one. Circle the most vivid one, the one that you want to work with for this workshop. Looking at this list and talking through it with you all, I think the one that has like the most kind of storytelling potential would be the City of Rocks. A trip to the City of Rocks. It just sounds amazing, and just thinking back at kind of how much anticipation there was for that particular trip, I think that's the one to go with. All right, so I'm stopping my stopwatch there. All right, so now, you can flip that piece of paper over or take out a new sheet and picture yourself within this memory. And then write your answers to the following questions in about 20 to 30 seconds. All right, so here's the list of questions that we'll start off with. All right, where are you? So write down the answer to this, on a piece of paper. Where are you in this scene? And I'm writing down, I'm with my family getting ready to go on a trip to the City of Rocks. Next question, what time of day is it in this image? In this image that you have in your mind of this memory, what time of day is it? For this particular memory, for me, it was the early morning, so I'm writing that down. What season is it? For me, I think this was early summer, because we really literally couldn't do anything else because of the school calendar. And then, so this one might take a little more time, so we could spend 30 seconds on this. What's happening in this scene? So it's kind of different from the first question, which is, where are you? So just kind of like elaborate a little more on what's happening in this scene. Just 1 or 2 sentences. And I'm writing down, I'm waiting in the driveway as we load up the car. All right, next up, about how old are you in this scene? And I want to guess that I'm probably about 12 or 13. What are you doing? Like, what are you specifically doing in this scene? And I'm writing down that I am loading a cooler into the trunk. Now, what is everybody else doing? So think about who else is in this particular scene. And just, this could be another 30-second answer here. Like, writing down, mom packing lunches, dad Has the hood up, checking the car. Siblings throwing their stuff in the car. What are some sounds that you can hear? And then the next question, what is around you? I'm writing down the trees in my parents' front yard. That's what was around me in this particular scene. The trees and shrubs. All right, and the final question here, what is going to happen immediately after this scene in your memory? And my answer to that is we are on the road and need to gas up for the long trip. Okay. Now, if this were a slightly longer workshop, we'd probably spend about 10 minutes actually, doing some writing, like writing out a page. But I think we can still have, we can still create a really good story and get right into drawing based on what we have here. So now that we have some fuel, let's begin telling the story through comics. First, some quick thoughts on story. So I'm going to ask that you try to tell a complete story from beginning to middle to end in just 8 panels. So as opposed to maybe having this be an introduction and then kind of ending with leaving your audience hanging. So, just do your best as we work through this, because we're going to be working panel by panel, to try to get a story with beginning, middle, end structure. And one way to think about that is to think about the 3-act structure of storytelling. So some of you may be familiar with this. You hear about it a lot with screenplays, I think, and playwrights. So like essentially the idea that stories have 3 acts, and in your first act, there's a call to action and the journey begins. The hero assembles the team. The hero's fired up and ready to go. So all the action is like going up, and it crescendos early into act 2 to early success. And then things go downhill from there. Setbacks, the hero is tested, the hero faces failure. And then in what's called like the act 2, act 3 bridge, I think that's the term, all seems lost. It's the lowest point in the story. And then act 3 is the shortest section, and then the hero rallies, gets help, and saves the day. I'm not saying that you need to impose this sort of structure with your memory. I only bring this up here to say that you may want to consider this sort of structure as you think about telling a story over 8 panels. So we'll start off with the beginning. The beginning and the end might be the easiest parts, and it might be the middle that is where we encounter some interesting some things that we may need to think about, like the images that we're going to accompany the stories here. And you'll see what I mean as we go along.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Carrie Spalding had a question in the chat, and she wanted to know what they would be writing if they were to do that 10-minute exercise, just so they can do it on their own later.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So essentially what you'd be writing, you take out a clean sheet, and then you can begin with the words I am, and then writing in the first person, the present tense, like it's happening right now. You could write about this moment, about this memory. for 8 minutes straight, like just write continuously without stopping. And if you find yourself like, you know, stopping or, you know, not knowing what to write about, then, you know, just making marks, doodling, you know, until you know, that you get fired up again. So writing 8 minutes nonstop essentially is what that writing exercise would be.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Wow, time is just ticking away. So let's get to our 8-panel comics. So, you know, if you have, you know, a folded sheet of 8.5 by 11, you know, you can do, I can't believe I don't have a 8.5 by 11 paper here. Yes, I do. Woohoo. So what you would do is you would take it, you would do the hamburger fold, and then you'd fold it again, like so. And then you can open that up, and then you'll have 4 panels. And then so if you do that again on the second sheet, then you'll have your last 4 panels. And then a question comes up often about how to orient. I always orient my panels long ways, as opposed to this way. Do whatever it feels good for you. There's a number of reasons to work this way. It's closer to like the 16 by 9 ratio that we often see in TV and movie and films. A lot of comic panels that have like set 8-panel pages are oriented more this way than this way. But again, do what feels good for you. All right, so we're going to start off with our first panel. So, you know, if you're working with index cards, then you're just going to be, you know, doing kind of like what I do here. But start off with your first panel and set the stage for your story. So how do you want your story to begin? In my case, my story is going to begin with the scene that I wrote where we're all in the driveway. Don't worry too much about style. Just kind of work. Cartooning is all about the doodle. The doodle is kind of the main unit of cartooning. So don't feel pressure. We don't have enough time, for one thing, to do too realistic a style. So, you know, work with simple shapes. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to have us all. Let's see here. So this will be me, little 12-year-old me, with my backpack, and I'm gonna draw a very simple car here. My dad actually had like a Pontiac. I forget the model, but man, that car was, it was like chrome, and it was really hot in the summer. And so I'll have the trunk open, and it's sitting in the driveway. And maybe there's bags under my eyes because it's the really early morning and the sun is not out yet. And maybe, you know, there's no dialogue in this. The first panel can just set the stage. Hopefully everybody can see this. Let's see, maybe I'll spotlight myself here. So yeah, there you go. All right. So you can see that I've drawn my avatar here, my character's avatar. It's the early morning. I need to include some other characters, so I'm going to draw like the hint of a house here, the neighbor's house, and you know, maybe my dad over here, or my brother, cool brother with the backwards hat, loading up like a cooler. Again, everybody has bags under their eyes because it's a little early. Maybe, you know, for atmosphere's sake, I'll include a prop like a street light, and the street light's on, and maybe there's stars in the skies. And then, you know, maybe I will include some dialogue. Man, it's early, says my brother. And then, you know, maybe in response to him, I just groan. So this will be panel 1 here. And you see, I just did like simple shapes, a simple style, just so that we have some visual information to accompany our story thus far. So as I think about like what I want the next panel to be, I don't want to jump too far ahead. I probably want to stay in the driveway. I don't want to immediately get to the City of Rocks. So maybe what I'll do is I'll have everybody finish up loading the car, because as I do this, and you know, you'll realize this as you draw your own panels, you may not want to spend too much time with the scene that you thought of. Maybe you want to go ahead, you know, if you wrote out like a planning scene like I did, like we're planning to go on the trip, maybe you just want to jump right into the trip. So that's another option. I just want to spend at least one more panel you know, with the prep. So maybe what I'll do is I'll draw everybody in the car here. So this will be panel 2. And let's see. So I'll do it from the point of view of the front of the car. So that's the window there. And the rear view mirrors, windshield wipers, and just everybody's in the car. So I'll do my mom here. My mom's bangs. Everybody's just tired. But she's happy. She's putting on a good face, my mom, as moms do. And then my dad. And I kind of have him leaning toward her like he's gonna, like they're engaged in conversation. And then all of us kids in the back. And I want to get across that we're kind of excited for this trip. So maybe I'll just have us kind of, as tired as we are, maybe we're just bouncing around full of energy and anticipation. So there was 3 of us. I have 5 siblings, but in this memory, I don't think my other 2 siblings are born yet. So sorry, Chris and Lisa, that you didn't make the cut. So my brother George makes the cut, and yeah, everybody's happy. And my sister Bernie, she's here. Short for Bernadette. And then me. So maybe my dad asks, is everyone ready? And then we're all like, yeah. You know, and some of you might be noticing that, like, you know, the dialogue that I'm writing is just like a line coming. I'm not really doing like a word balloon just yet, and I'm not really too concerned about like that you might meet that somebody might read yeah before they read is everyone ready. You know, because this is just, it's important that these kinds of exercises are just about getting the idea out of your brain first, and then you can go back and do some refining. So that's important to kind of know with exercises such as these. Just get the idea out of your head and on the page. So boom. Moving right along here. So that's a good panel 3. I want us out of this driveway at this point. So let's get the heck out of this driveway. Let me pull up another piece of Bristol board here. And for those of you thinking that like I'm wasting this Bristol board, this is like Bristol board that's been sitting in my closet forever, and it's the wrong size for how I work. So I'm putting it to good use here. So this will be panel 3, and you know, you can use this opportunity if you haven't already to maybe do like pull out into a long shot. In comics, we use a lot of terminology that film and TV do, just because of the way that we perceive of shots existing as the camera frames them. So you can pull out and do a long shot just to establish a sense of place. So I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to draw our car kind of in the distance. Headlights are on because it's early morning hours. And we're just going through the neighborhood. So again, I'll do those kinds of boxes. You can do some fancy perspective, or you can not. You know, whatever it is for this stage here. I mean, whatever style you want to work with that you're comfortable with is perfect. And I'll do some trees that are in the neighborhood. And then there was a mall that was like, there was a ditch and then a mall. So I'm gonna kind of draw the ditch there. And telephone poles are everywhere. Just to give a sense of place. And the mall was giant. There was this giant parking lot in front of the mall, as is often the case with malls. That mall no longer exists. So yeah, and then maybe the sun is starting to rise. So in El Paso, where I grew up, there's the Franklin Mountains there. So I definitely need to include those. And then maybe the sun is coming up. Look at that gorgeous sunrise, huh? That's a Southwest sunrise if I ever saw one. And then, so, you know, maybe my mom is commenting on it and she says, look at that sunrise. Look at that beautiful sunrise. And then we're all, ooh. Okay, so panel 3, we're on the road. So I was going to include something like gassing up, but I think that's a little boring, maybe not important to the story. So at this point, you might want to do some editing, you know, like if there was some sort of detail that seemed important when we did that brief writing exercise that now seems less important. So I was thinking of including, as I looked at my notes here, like we are on the road and need to gas up for the long trip. So I was thinking like that might be something I want to include, but I don't think so. We're already on panel 4, so this is halfway through the story. So I want to continue with a long shot, and I want to get us on the highway. Maybe something a little closer up, so that way maybe I can include some dialogue among us, or some sort of action. So I'm just gonna zoom in on the car and then see what happens. So I'll do a closer shot of the car, again talking in film terms because that's how us cartoonists talk. And maybe the headlights are off. That's an important kind of indicator of time. And for those of you that know cars, this is a pretty awful Pontiac, whatever the heck it was that my dad drove us around in. Okay, so from this distance, I'm really only able to do like silhouettes, which is great. Or silhouettes or just little like stick figure type things, which is always fun to do in cartooning. So my mom with her bangs, so that's her indicator, and then my dad up front here. And then so maybe I'll try to loop it back to where it is that we're going, because so far I haven't touched on the fact that we're going to the City of Rocks. So maybe I'll ask, how long until we get to the City of Rocks. And then my mom will answer, And you know, my memory fails me here, but I think it was at least 2 hours. So I'll have that be her answer. I think it'll be 2 hours. And then maybe I'll have one of my siblings interject. You know, the boring. So you know, maybe he didn't actually say that, but you know, for this draft, that's what I'm gonna have him say. And then, you know, besides the car, I'll just put some speed lines and then maybe some cars going in the other direction on this busy highway. The Interstate 10, was it Interstate 10? No, it was 54. That one goes north-south, and the 10 goes east-west. And the City of Rocks is in New Mexico, so that's where we're going. So yeah, I can include some indicators of some desert plants, maybe that we're leaving the city. This is El Paso, we're leaving the city here. And now the sun will be further up. So there's the sun using the symbol that indicates the sun that we've all been so familiar with since elementary school. A circle with rays coming out of it. Cool. Yeah, maybe some foreground information here. I love the doodle, and I love my doodles of these plants here. You know, again, first draft. So things can stay rough. You know, this is where you work out your ideas. So we're halfway there. We're more than halfway there with this workshop, and we're halfway there with this story. So I gotta hurry here so that we can get to sharing. So in the 5th panel, you know, maybe we're having lunch in the car. So my mom is gonna pass out the lunches, which were always hot dogs. So she's in the front seat there. Lunchtime. And my dad maybe just watching the rearview mirror. Nice little detail. You can include little details like, you know, a person driving a car watching a mirror, you know, just stuff from life. And then my little sister Bernie, I haven't given her anything to say yet, poor Bernie. So I'll just have her saying, yes. We all loved hot dogs. And then you can see my eyes peeking out over here. And then maybe my brother, oh, my dad wasn't bald. I got to give him some hair. Maybe my brother is too cool for school, or he's just lost in thought and he's looking out the window. And then, you know, maybe I'll just draw like the indication of a cooler here. So my mom isn't pulling hot dogs out of the air. Like there's actual like hot dogs sitting in a cooler here. Cool. That's number 5. So hopefully you're all keeping up and you're at least on panel 5 if you're following along. Panel 6, the story is moving along. So I got to get us to the City of Rocks. So I'm going to do another long shot. So here's the Pontiac. And I'm going to make the City of Rocks look pretty darn cool, like the City of Rocks of our imagination. I believe it was actually called the City of Rocks because there were all these unique rock formations. And so I'm just going to go to town on these rock formations, like just crazy ones that are balancing, impossible, you know, but hey, if you can't create like an impossible imaginary world in a scenario such as like the one that we're all in, then yeah. Then shame on us. Because it all goes back to shame. Okay. Look at these rock formations. These actually remind me of George Harriman and Crazy Cat, which is a comic strip that I absolutely love. And if I highly recommend, if it's a comic strip from the early 20th century. George Harriman is of Creole ancestry, and he just created these remarkable characters, Crazy Cat and Officer Pup and Ignatz Mouse. And it's this love triangle, and it's about language and absurdity and just like a love of comics. It's just so rich, so great. What panel am I on? I'm on 6. So here we are. Yay. So panel 6, we're at the City of Rocks. And look at that. That was well worth it. Look at all those gorgeous rocks. All right, panel 7. I think I want to loop it back to me. Just because, hey, it's my story. And I'm going to do a kind of like classic close-up type thing where I'm just kind of amazed at the rocks. I'm looking out the window here. Got to get my big nose in there. And was I wearing a cap before? I think I was. Yeah. So on the brim there, and then just leaning out of side of the car there. So this might be called an extreme close-up. And then my sister, you know, as enthusiastic, you know, looking up at the rocks. Maybe she has, yeah, I was going to give her a similar expression, but maybe she just has like this childlike smile on her face. And yeah, she's right there. And then, you know, maybe I won't include my brother in this shot. It's just kind of a given that he's there. And so this is an opportunity for me to have just a dialogue with her. Let's see. What do you think? Bernie? What do you think, Bernie? It's better than I remember. So this is panel 7. So I got to wrap up this thing. So panel 8 here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the car. So we've stopped. The car is parked and we're all outside of the car. So I'm going to draw the car parked here. And maybe it's in a parking lot. So, you know, I'll give a hint of some other cars off to the side here. Desert landscape. And then all of us. So I'm going to quickly draw my family, my mom with her bangs, my dad, and maybe they're holding hands. Isn't that cute? Yeah, maybe they're holding hands. And then us kids just took off. We're like running around, excited to be out of the car. And, you know, another opportunity to just draw some really cool George Harriman-esque rock formations. Maybe I'll do a rock in the shape of a cactus. And then I'll give us all something to say. And one little bit of dialogue that I remember that my sister said that we all remind her of when we see her. So I'll say, I'm gonna climb that one. And then my brother teasing me, no way, you'll never do it. Way older brothers rib the younger ones. You'll never do it, wimp. Make him a little mean. And then my sister, the line that we always tease her for, I'm gonna get married out here when I'm older. So there you go. You know, that's my 8-panel story. You know, there's not much to it, obviously. If I did want to expand on it, at least I got these ideas out of my head in an initial way. So just to recap, before we move on to sharing with everybody, the great City of Rock story. Man, it's early, grown, so early morning hours. Is everyone ready? Yay. This is surreal reading backwards on the Zoom, on the Zoom interface here. Look at that beautiful sunrise. Ooh. And then we're out on the highway. How long until we get to the City of Rocks? I think it'll be 2 hours. Boring, says my brother. And then lunchtime. Yes. And then my mom passing out the hot dogs. And then this fantasy City of Rocks. Here we are. Yay. And what do you think, Bernie? It's better than I imagined. Look at that childlike wonder on our faces there. And then to wrap up, I'm going to climb that one. No way, you'll never do it, wimp. I'm going to get married out here when I'm older. The City of Rocks saga, from a more innocent time in my life. This was great. I hope everybody had a really good time. I know I did. You know, like I've said, I've done something really similar with Sequential Arts Workshop. If you are interested in more of these sort of prompt exercises, I would highly recommend Making Comics by Linda Berry. It's a great resource. There's other kind of writing related prompted things that can get your juices flowing. Another book I recommend, if this is something that you're interested in, you know, is Ivan Brunetti's Cartooning Philosophy and Practice. You can see I even adopted his style a little bit for kind of my quick style there. Yeah, again, I'm Dave Ortega. You can find me at Dave Ortega Draws. Oh, the last name of that author, the second one, it's Ivan Brunetti. Ivan Brunetti, Brunetti, who also is a comics educator, just like Linda Berry, and it's essentially his entire syllabus. Including like some activities for a 12-week course. So if you're interested in giving yourself a 12-week course on comics, pick up that book.
Thank you so much, Dave. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm the Associate Director of Programs here at Black Mountain Institute. Thank you so much for being here today. My colleague Lawrence has helpfully added some links to the chat. And I just want to thank you again for coming. If you enjoyed this free workshop, we have a one-day, ends at midnight, fund drive called Rebels Give here at the University of Nevada. Lawrence put our link to donate in the chat box. So if you have a few bucks and you'd like to help fund some students of creative writing, we're raising money for scholarships and student support. Thanks again for coming, and we'll hope to see you at our next SAW Comics on April 8th with Tom Hart. All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody.
Bye, thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave.
Dave.